My first ever sleep paralysis episode was when I was in my early 20s. I was dreaming that I was talking to someone on the phone, and all of a sudden, all I heard was static. I then became aware straight away that I was in a dream. I knew that I was asleep. I wasn't sure what was going on. My mind seemed to somehow transition from the dream to me just being in bed. And it was then that I realised that I couldn't move. I knew that my mum had not long gone to bed, so I tried to call out for her, only for there to be no sound come out. So obviously at this point I'm starting to panic, and I can feel my heart pounding because I can't move and I can't call out for help either. And then I remembered my dad telling me about sleep paralysis because he had experienced it once. So with that I actually managed to calm myself down a little bit. I thought, okay, this must just be sleep paralysis, it'll pass. So I then focused on just trying to wiggle a finger, which didn't happen straight away. It felt like it took a few moments, but as soon as I was able to move a finger, the rest of my body came out of it. And I just remember sitting there and I was just thinking, what the hell? Now, there was no hallucinations on that first experience, however, that would change for nearly every episode that I would have in the future. 99% of the episodes that I would have would be only hallucinations that I could feel and hear, as my eyes were never open during the experience. There's only been one where I was actually unfortunate enough to have my eyes open, and with that I would have one of the most surreal and terrifying experiences that I've ever had. So you could say the first experience I had wasn't actually too bad. That would change for the rest of them, as it would just get progressively worse. So the second time I had sleep paralysis, I woke up again, unable to move, except this time my senses were going absolutely crazy. There was somebody there in the room. I could feel it, that there was just somebody there. But again, my eyes weren't open, so I couldn't see. I just felt this presence, and it was dreadful. And then all of a sudden I feel this weight on my foot, as if someone's placed a hand on my foot, on top of the covers, and I just remember feeling pure dread as I felt this weight moving up the bed. Now at this point, obviously I'm just in pure panic mode right now. I would bet a year's wages that there was going to be somebody there when I opened my eyes. You know, just having that memory of feeling like there was an intruder there in the room with me is something I will never forget. But obviously I opened my eyes, I managed to move again, and there was nobody there. And it was over. And I realised at that point that I'd been in sleep paralysis again. But it was the first time that I'd hallucinated, so that was an experience that will stay with me for sure. Sleep paralysis can leave you feeling absolutely terrified, like you're going crazy. Some people even feel like they're actually being haunted. Sometimes you're aware that you're in sleep paralysis, and other times you're not aware of it at all. It's worse than any nightmare that you could ever have. So that brings me to my third experience. So again, I wake up, I can't move, I can't speak. And all of a sudden, I hear my bedroom door open. And for some reason, I just knew that it was my mum. But what scared me the most was the fact that she was just apparently stood in the doorway, probably just staring at me, which just sent shivers down my spine. I started really panicking at that point, because I knew that she hadn't moved, because I hadn't heard any footsteps or anything come into the room. But then eventually I did hear movement, and then I felt weight on the bottom of the bed. And at that point I'm just in absolute pure panic mode. I'm trying to shuffle backwards. All the while I can feel this weight coming up the bed. And yeah, my heart's just racing. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. And I felt like I was just like in a kind of like a fight for my life kind of thing. But my fight back managed to win out in the end, because I managed to break out of it. Now this experience got to me a lot, as my mum is actually one of the most gentle and kind women that you'll ever meet. So to have this experience that involved my mother was extremely unsettling. I researched sleep paralysis a bit after this and found stories of other people having near enough the same sleep paralysis hallucination, where the mother comes into the room, gets on the bed, climbs all the way up, and it ends with her hands around your neck basically. Now I felt very fortunate in that moment that I broke out of it when I did. Now over the years I've had many more sleep paralysis experiences, mostly consisting of feeling like someone's in the room, or I'll hear footsteps coming towards me while I'm laid in bed, unable to move. But there are two more experiences that are most definitely the top two worst ones that I've ever had. I mean, it's hard to believe that the one involving my mother isn't even the worst one. But these last two are definitely the worst experiences that I've ever had. So back in 2019 I moved to Leeds for a bit to live with my friend Will and his partner. This particular time I was asleep on a sofa. Everything was dark, everyone was in bed. This time I would experience sleep paralysis 3 times back to back. The first time I woke up, I couldn't move, couldn't talk. So I did what I've learned to do over the years, which was wiggle a finger. I managed to break out of it. Pretty much immediately put my head back down to go back to sleep, because I'm pretty much used to sleep paralysis at this point. Just to find myself back in sleep paralysis, and I remember thinking, just no way, not again, as I was actually aware that I was in sleep paralysis. So I focused on moving a finger again, and broke out of it. And I remember just sitting there for a little bit, thinking how weird it was that I'd had it twice back to back, as that had never happened before. But after a few minutes I put my head back down and I fell back asleep. And I woke up in sleep paralysis again, except this time I wasn't aware that I was in it, and this time it came with an auditory hallucination that I will never forget for as long as I live. See, I'm somebody who doesn't like crowds and doesn't like loud noise, so this episode was absolutely horrendous for me. I felt like I was led down on a sofa, probably because I was sleeping on one. And I had a crowd of people around me just being really loud. There were no words that I could pick out, but it was just a loud mesh of loud talking, already hating the fact that I was in the middle of a crowd of people unable to move. The talking then turned to laughter, and the laughter wasn't at something funny, it wasn't at somebody else or something. It was a laughter that was aimed at me, and this laughter just got louder and louder and closer, and it just got so loud that I felt like I'd put my hands over my ears and began to scream at the top of my lungs. But this laughter was so loud that I couldn't even hear myself screaming. It's like everyone had just leaned in and was laughing at the top of the lungs. And I felt myself struggling to get away. I even felt like I'd managed to shift off the sofa and onto the floor. All the while this laughter is just at an ear-splitting volume. I felt like it went on forever, and then all of a sudden it stopped. And I sat up, everything back to normal. I was still on the sofa, so I hadn't moved during the whole thing. Not only could I not believe what had just happened, but I couldn't believe that I'd had 3 episodes back to back like that. Now, the final experience that I'll share with you is what I personally feel has been the worst one that I've ever had, due to what happened and the fact that it's actually been the only one I've had a visual hallucination with to this day. This was, I think, during the lockdowns of 2020. So I'm back at my parents' home after moving back from Leeds. I'm asleep in my bed, and all of a sudden I wake up and I can't move, can't speak, the usual. Except this time my eyes are open and I can see my room, and on the wall to the right of me is a slim white wardrobe. All of a sudden I notice this picture of a man's face in a frame right above the wardrobe. I just remember staring at it thinking, what the hell? When the actual guy's face turns to look directly at me. Have you ever felt that rush of dread through your body where you just go cold and you feel your stomach going nuts? Well, that's what happened when I saw this. And that's when I actually felt myself lifting. I felt light and like I was actually lifting. Now, I was staring wide-eyed at this picture, realising that I'm actually drifting towards the damn thing. So I tried forcing myself to go back down. It wasn't working, and I felt like I was just flailing around as if I could catch some air like a sail and force myself away. But I only got closer, and then as quick as it had started, it ended, and I opened my eyes and I was in bed. Everything back to normal. Straight away I looked up towards the top of the wardrobe, and the stuff that I usually had stored there was there, which actually wasn't present during the hallucination. The top of the wardrobe was clear, and there was just this little picture, this portrait on the wall right above it, which would be a stupid place to put a portrait to start with, but none of this ever makes sense. And I remember sitting there thinking about this one for quite a while, because it was the first time I'd ever seen anything. My hallucinations had only ever been feel and sound up to that point. So that was quite a traumatic one, I'm not gonna lie. And I guess you could say that would be what some people would call an out-of-body experience. Whether that's what it was, I don't know. All I know is that I was floating, basically, like someone had just switched the gravity off on the planet. I mean, it wasn't like I shot up, you know what I mean? It was just a slow, like the gravity had just gone and I just lifted. But I was, I don't know, being pulled towards this picture, and I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't broke out of it when I did, and I actually got all the way to it. Most of the time I'm really glad that I break out of stuff before it reaches its conclusion. Safe to say. Thank you for taking the time out of your night to listen to this story. I know that this isn't my usual type of content, but I just really fancied doing something for Halloween, and this is all I could put together in the time that I had. But I hope you enjoyed every little bit of it, and unfortunately they are true experiences that I've had, so hopefully that'll make it extra scary. I'd be curious to know if anyone listening to this story has suffered from sleep paralysis themselves. Let me know your experiences in the comments. I would love to hear about it. And also, do you think sleep paralysis is a sleep disorder or a genuine paranormal event? So happy Halloween, everybody. Have a good one.